Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and welcome back to Dark Souls 1. We are here in the painted world of Ariamis. This is a fascinating level because we have the peculiar doll, which we picked up from the Undead Asylum. It mentions cold and lonely painted world. If we go to the painting there in Orlando, we will get sucked into it, which is really weird. This is a great area. It's my favorite area of the game. It has an amazing atmosphere. It looks incredible. There are some really tough enemies. It's challenging here. There's great lore here. This is probably the most lore-heavy part of the game. There is some cool items, or some cool spells, or some cool NPC invaders, cool armor. All kinds of good stuff here. This little secret little area here you can walk behind, there's nothing here, but I like doing it. I have to warn everyone before coming in here, this area is fairly challenging, and once you rest at this bonfire, you cannot get back out. You have made your decision, you are stuck here until you reach the end. You don't have to beat the boss at the end, because the boss is optional, but once you get to that point, there's no going back, so, you know, be careful about that. I should also mention that before you come down here, I would recommend that you get perhaps a weapon with fire damage, or some charcoal pine resin to put on your weapon, or some pyromancy, because there are some special enemies here that we're going to be killing with that. I did a ton of farming, and boosted my shield, my bow, a bunch of my weapons, including this Ricard's Rapier, up to plus 14, and my armor here up to plus 9. Armor only gets up to plus 10. I don't think I mentioned that before. Okay. I wish it did not take so long to toast up this bonfire, but I got it up to 20, and I am alive, and I also managed to get some blooming purple moss clumps, because there is an enemy in this area that can infect you with toxic. The first areas we encounter are rather strange. They're just basic hollows. You know, they're not dangerous at all. They're the same ones in the Undead Asylum. They may have been put here because, this area was actually the first area they designed in the game. So, just to sort of test things out. It's sort of snowy, which is the first time we've seen this since the Undead Asylum. It looked sort of cold and frosty on those mountains we could look at. There is, up there, a corpse with, I think, a humanity on it. Not much of all that importance. Let's pop over here, and this next area we begin to run into some of the more difficult enemies of the area. There are a few hollows here, but they're not challenging, but behind them are the bloated hollows, who kind of resemble the egg guys in what section was it? Not Darkwood Basin. The egg guys in Quillag's Domain / the Demon Ruins. And they're just past there. These enemies are incredibly tough. They have a very dangerous long-range fire spell that we can't really avoid. And, unbelievably, if you stand next to them when you kill them, you get infected with the toxic status. So, you have to kill them at a range. Bullcrap, I should have hit him there. And if you don't, well, then you'll get toxic. Like if I was sprayed by that blood, toxic. The one way to negate that without using ranged attacks, where's the other one? Is to, maybe I killed the other one. Is he dead? I hope he's dead. Yes, he is. The one way to negate that without using ranged attacks, because you can see it can be a little tricky there, because they have a ranged attack too, and it's much more powerful, and does not need to be so accurate as ours. It's just sort of spraying fire out at us. Sort of like a long-range version of Great Combustion. The way to deal with that is to attack with fire weapons. If you fight this with fire weaponry, if you kill those enemies with fire weapons, then you can't be made toxic by them. You know, they can't hurt you with toxic, which is really cool if you come in here with a fire weapon. So there is a use for the fire weapons, although not that much of a use compared to how much effort you put into using that. Now, the dried finger is a very unique item. Where are you? Alright, where is this? Dried finger. Shriveled but still slightly warm, with this many knuckles, surely it cannot belong to anything human. If you use this, you're able to be invaded more often. And you may ask yourself, well, wait a minute, why do I want to be invaded more often? Well, some people like invasions, you know? They like to be invaded and they like to fight. And maybe they don't want that moral guilt of invading themselves. You know, they want to be invaded rather than the invader. And look at these weird white rats. Just by changing up a tiny little thing, just a palette swap, they made these guys look really cool. Now let's pop up here and deal with some more bloat heads. But first there's an archer over there. This area can be very tricky with those bloat heads. And even though I only have a tiny little bit of health gone there, I want to bring that up. There are a bunch of bloat heads in the next room. And remember, pyromancy attacks or ranged attacks will negate their toxic power, but we may have to get toxic anyway because there's so many of them. Trying to deal with more than one at a time is a little bit tricky. Let's see if we can take care of that. We'll get that later on. And unfortunately, these guys sort of spawn in a little bit clumsily. So we can go in there and be ready to fight them with a bow, but they haven't spawned in yet. Instantly spawn in and then spam us with fire. So let's go cautiously. Right there they are. You see, the fire comes in, but they're not really there. We can barely see them, which is total bullshit. And the fact we have to fight them on this ledge, it just makes it crazy. Let's see if my pyromancy can do something against them. One hit? One hit. Nice. I actually spent a hell of a lot of time grinding, and you can get so many souls grinding those dark raids that I actually managed to get my pyromancy glove up to plus 20. You have to go down to Quelana to do that, and it says plus 15. You can sort of ascend it as if you were ascending a weapon from plus 5 to plus 6. And then you can get it up to sort of ascended plus 5. I don't know why they have to go through that rigmarole and don't just make it plus 20, but there you go. Oh, for goodness sake. Come here. Come here. The thief, by the way, starts out with some pretty damn good attunement, because I can actually get, with just one more point of attunement, I can get another spell slot. So, that's pretty cool. I meant to jump there, and that did not work. That did not work at all. That's a very cool item down there. This is one of the reasons why I brought the rapier down here. Just very easy to quickly pop these guys and then move on. But no. There is a way to roll down or sort of jump down and grab that item without going through the tedium of getting the key to get in there. But I only managed to do it a small number of times, like 2 times maybe. It's a very tricky jump. And you just have to practice with it over and over again. Okay, let's try this jump here though. Yes, alright. Soul of the Brave Warrior. There's a unique item over here called the Egg Vernifuge. And a long time ago in our episode about Quelaag and Iningi, Quelaag's little servant there, I spoke about a weird condition you can get affected with if you fight those egg guys. They can sort of infect you with this bizarre parasitic egg, which causes your head to turn into this horrible blobby elephant man-like head thing. And the only way to cure it is by using an egg vernifuge, which you can pick up here, and I think you get as a drop from the toad guys, the mushroom frog guys, and Darkroot Garden, and you can buy them from Iningi, but only if you're infected. Removes parasitic egg from body. Bitter Sour Chestnut. Removes parasitic egg from body. The egg bearers have chosen to serve the flame of chaos, and the eggs symbolize this selfless choice. Naturally, these chestnuts are forbidden, but are allowed under special circumstances. Why would they be forbidden, and why do they say it's a selfless choice? Are the chaos servants helping the Lady of Chaos by bearing the load of the eggs for some reason, or because I thought that they spawned the demons when they tried to relight the first flame, so the eggs or the eggs there have something to do with the demons being created. But I don't really know. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to be switching over to post-commentary here because of recording issues. Anyway, getting the egg vermifuge is just a good idea in general because you can actually trade that into Snuggly the Crow in order to get a dragon scale. So that's a rare item, so you want to do that even if you don't have any plans on becoming a bloat monster. There's nothing of any true importance down in this section here. It's really just the Painting Guardian armor and a couple of rats. The Painting Guardian armor is surprisingly awful and maybe the worst armor in the game. Like, literally Dusk's armor might actually, the Pretty Princess armor, might actually be a little bit better than this. And it just looks so creepy, like the headpiece to this and also to the Pyromancy one, it just looks so bizarre. It almost looks like a Klansman's hood, and so it's too creepy. I don't like it. I love that little room there with the bench. It kind of reminds me of the small room that James Sunderland is tossed down into in Silent Hill 2 by Pyramid Head when he goes to the roof of the hospital. Let's head upstairs here, and we can start the next section of the game. We will probably just head right down here. This is just a soul item down here. There are guys hanging off the side of this here. And I like using the rapier to take these guys out. It's just one quick little thing from behind a shield. It's not all that big an issue. That is an enemy we're going to be fighting later on in the game, a crow. This area is strongly related to Velka, the goddess of sin, and those crows are no joke. Those are serious enemies over there. And that is the second of 2 undead dragons this game has. We're going to be fighting him in just a little bit. He's someone you really should just take out with arrows. That's probably the best way to do it. I think you do also get a dragon scale from defeating him. I want to know what dragons were doing in this area, because the boss of this area is very interesting, a half-dragon, half-god. So I don't know what that dragon was doing here, if it was helping or hurting anyone. That door we can't get into next, that's the door to the boss area. We're going to be fixing that in just a second. This fog wall is just here to troll you. It is just here to make you go, oh, for fuck's sake, why can't I just get through here? What is the point of this? It's pissing me off. And to get you killed by enemies that are waiting out here with ranged weapons. These enemies are legionaries, in a way, I guess you could say. They're sort of like, just opening up the shortcut here. This is going to allow us to go straight from the bonfire to this area without going through the bloathead area. And these guys are just a reference to something from Demon Souls. It was a boss, Longbow Ulan and his fearsome legions. And surprisingly, this is taking 3 hits to kill. They have a weird shield, these guys. That's sort of like a large version of the target shield with those 4 points on it. And tragically, I get killed here by these guys because I'm not paying attention. What exactly these guys are, I don't know. I don't know if they ever explain it. This is just sort of like a dumping ground for bizarre, hideous experiments that were left here from, you notice the cages there. Those contain weird experiments. And those guys can obviously throw their shields. They're supposed to be like hoplites from ancient Greece, sort of like we saw in 300, you know, that weird mutated guy in 300. And those guys were actually fairly tough in a group, but really I was just being careless there. I have no excuse for dying there. I should have just been a lot more careful than I was. The boss in Demon Souls is actually quite easy. It's the first boss in the game after the tutorial area. And yeah, it's really just a big blob with a bunch of those guys hanging around outside of it. And the reason that I'm becoming alive here is because in this next area there is an NPC invader. And this NPC invader is a really, really cool guy named Xanthus King Jeremiah. And Xanthus King Jeremiah is a bright, golden pyromancer. Xanthus means sort of brightly or uncomfortably yellow, I think, sort of a shining yellow. And his armor is ludicrously yellow or gold, as we'll see in just a moment. We're going to go right over here. I'm not going to bother with the hoplite guys here. And we're going to kill a few hollows, and then he spawns, you know, in the most inopportune place, of course, possible, you know, to try to screw with you. And we have to fight these stupid torch-bearing hollows, which are some of the most difficult enemies in the game, I have to reiterate. And this whole area just looks amazing. Just look at this. It's so cool. The atmosphere is creepy and dark and much more horror-like, sort of like it was in Demon Souls. You know, this whole area reminds me a little bit more of Demon Souls because of how horrific it looks. There are some items down there, but they're just soul items. They're not really important. Now, Xanthus King Jeremiah, being a pyromancer, is essentially completely immune to pyromancy. Don't even bother trying to use it. It does so virtually no damage. It's not really relevant at all. So if you're a pyromancer, then you know you're kind of shit out of luck here. You just have to use physical attacks, and he uses fire tempest or fire storm, an attack that causes piles of flame pillars to spawn up out of the ground all around you. Look how ridiculous he looks. And these flame pillars can spawn up randomly around the caster, and they are very difficult to avoid because without like running right into them. They're very, very dangerous. So you really just need to know where he's going to spawn, and then charge as quickly as you can down at him and jump him. There's really no other way to do it, because you don't want him to get even one little bit of pyromancy off, because that is seriously going to put you in a lot of danger.